have this memory of blood pouring out of my face onto the ground. We were all gonna die.
I knew I'd be bitten. Panic, fear, terror. You're scared.
It was so completely overpowering. He just ripped my face off. I told myself I'd rather die.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 remarkable stories of people who've been savaged by distant cousins of man's best friend. What's it like to become human prey? On a canoeing holiday in the Canadian wilderness, the Delventhal family was savagely attacked by a lone wolf.
There was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
Algonquin Park, Ontario. A vast landscape of forests, lakes, and rivers. A popular destination for hikers and nature lovers. And home to predators, including the eastern wolf.
The conventional wisdom in North America is that wolves are basically harmless. But it became crystal clear that there were circumstances under which the wolves would be dangerous.
This adult wolf has been expelled from his pack. Forced to fend for himself, he's become an opportunistic predator, scavenging kills and raiding campsites. And he's starting to lose his natural fear of people.
That's it. Just keep paddling straight on in. How you doing, guys? Yeah, just follow me in.
The Delventhal family is near the end of a 9-day canoe trip to some of the park's most remote areas.
All right, then.
We wanted to get away from people, get away from human contact, really get as much as possible into nature to appreciate it as a family.
Yeah, dig right in there.
It had been one of the best trips, probably one of the high points of our lives together as a family.
As the day ends, the Delventhals look for a place to set up camp.
Hey, Tracy, how about right over here? The perfect spot, isn't it? All right. Great job, guys. Well
They're
done.
unaware that something else has also picked this site.
And we got ourselves a camp set up. Keep the fire going.
The wolf gravitated to the campsite because that was a place where in the past it may have smelled food, experienced food.
Although both parents just want to kick back and relax, their older boys have plans of their own.
You're dead.
We wanted to go out on the water and see the sunset. And our parents had very strict rule that me and my brother Eli were not allowed out in the canoes without one of them in the canoe. So we needed to convince one of our parents to go out with us.
What do you say, Mom?
We're going to stay here and make dinner, and you boys go ahead.
Tom and his 2 older sons set off in the canoe. He has no idea a hungry wolf may now be sizing up their little brother.
About 80% of the attacks are aimed at children. And children are being taken while they are still struggling and screaming and are being carried off.
As Tom and his boys paddle further away from their campsite, they bump into other canoeists who tell them about an old Algonquin Park tradition.
You ready? Let's do it.
The wolf call.
We sort of bunched all the canoes together and started howling, more or less in unison, doing our best to sound like wolves.
When you howl, you let the pack know that you are another wolf and you're encroaching on its territory.
The lone wolf closes in, possibly worried that rivals may attempt to steal his tempting evening meal.
The forest around the site was really thick. You couldn't see into the forest at all. And I heard something and just saw the side of something.
Oh, good timing, guys. It's just ready. Grab some balls.
Tom arrives back with his older sons.
Well,
The wolf is likely scared away for now.
All right, boys, time for bed. We got a long day tomorrow.
It's been such a perfect evening that Tom and Tracy decide not to pitch the tents. The Delventhals will sleep under the stars. But sleeping outside makes the family vulnerable.
My mom put Willem, who was only 3, in between me and Eli, who were considerably larger than him. Me, Willem, and Eli were down in our own little group.
and I am going to sleep like a log.
Tom and I, we were lying out under the stars and agreed that it was the most peaceful, grounded, safe that we'd ever felt in our lives. And talked about how blessed we were, that this was a glorious place.
There is something quite wonderful about lying down and seeing the stars, but I was 12 and I was a little bit more scared of the world and scared of the dark.
The ravenous wolf bides his time. He waits until the family is still. His sights are firmly set on the children.
I was dreaming that I was walking through the woods with my parents, and it was sunny, and we were just sort of walking and talking.
Finally, the wolf makes his move. He zeroes in on the most accessible prey, Zach.
While I was dreaming, there was definitely a sensation of pressure on my face.
The wolf, as a killing machine, is extremely powerful. They really slice through tissues and meat and muscles and tendons. It's very severe.
Incredibly, Zach keeps on sleeping.
And it felt like I was being dragged. Felt like I was sort of strapped to the front of a jet. Everything started rushing by really, really quickly, and that was the point when I woke up.
Startled, the wolf runs back into the forest.
It was one long, ripping scream. It was blood-curdling.
Zach, what's wrong? What's wrong? What is...
He kept saying, "Something bit me."
What happened? Something bit you?
But they still have no idea what bit him.
It was at that point that my thermals were getting wet and warm. And he started saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And so I realized that he was bleeding profusely from the face.
I sat there trying to gather myself, and I looked through the darkness to where they were huddled together, and then I saw the wolf.
Yeah! Yeah! Go on!
I was being as big as I could be and as loud as I could be. I had to get it away from my wife and child.
He ran right past us, and we could hear it running into the woods and whacking trees and bushes and stuff. And I was trying to hold Zach and figure out what was going on.
The animal retreats.
The wolf!
And I immediately started panicking. Could kill the whole family.
Hey, baby.
I kept just pulling him down and whispering, You have to stay calm. We have to stay calm. We have to stay quiet. We have to know where it is.
But with only a flashlight, the family has no idea where the wolf is hiding, whether it's vanished or simply biding its time.
Wolves have a marvelous tapetum lucidum, which is the technical name for a membrane in the back of the eye which reflects light. And so wolves can see at night much better than we can.
The wolf is probably watching the family's every move. He will choose the best moment to resume his attack.
I thought we were all going to die. I thought that there was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
On a canoeing trip to Algonquin Park, Ontario, the Delventhal family has fought off a savage attack by a lone wolf.
Go on! Go on!
They're terrified it will strike again.
First thing I found was my paddle. It was the biggest of all of the paddles. And I went back to where he had disappeared and stood there for about half a minute till I was satisfied that he was gone.
Eli, let me see. Let me see.
My dad came up in front of me and shone the light in my face.
Let me see, Simon.
The first thing I saw was the terror and the fear in his eyes. And I could see that his cheek was totally torn through. I just kind of stopped and said, "Oh my God."
I mean, it was slow and it was horrified and hopeless. And it was all there, and oh my God, and the look on his face. And I knew it was worse than I thought it was.
Again, the hungry wolf emerges from the forest. Now he moves in for the kill.
And my dad turned and charged it and followed it out into the woods.
It was really scary, but I was going to beat him. I was going to destroy it.
Go on! Get out of here!
The trees wrapped around him, and he was gone. He disappeared.
Tom, come on!
I thought, if he doesn't come back, how am I going to protect these kids on my own?
My immediate thought was that I wasn't going to see him again.
It was the darkest night I can ever remember, but all of my senses were really, really sharpened, and I felt like I could see exactly where he was.
Armed with his makeshift weapon, Tom now has the upper hand.
Wolves, in all their killing activities, have to respect one thing. They're basically hypochondriacs. Safety for them is paramount.
Self-preservation wins over hunger. The animal retreats, for now. Seizing the moment, the Delventhals make their escape.
Keep that right on there. That's it. See that? Yeah. Keep this on there. Hold that on there. That's it. All right, you gotta get out of here. Up we go. Here we go. Now here, let me talk to you. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Hey, Will, Eli, you guys all right? Let's go, baby. Let's go. Tracy, let's go. Zach, hold on.
There was this moment of pushing off the sight, and then I remember just going, because I knew at least the wolf couldn't get us now.
The family may have escaped the wolf's jaws, but Zach is still in terrible danger. He's losing blood fast.
Hey, Zach, hold on, son. You're all right.
I thought about dying, so I was just sort of peacefully lying in the boat and figured I could slip away now and it would be easy. What changed my thinking was thinking about my family and thinking about how much they would all miss me.
I was very aware that he might have lost a lot of blood, and that there was a lot further to go. We couldn't find our way out, and that was just feeling like incredible powerlessness on my part. I was really angry at myself, frustrated with myself, and frustrated with the situation.
After 3 long hours, the family sees a glimmer of light. They arrive at a lodge, but the hospital is still another 4 hours away. Zach undergoes 4 hours of emergency surgery. His nose is broken in 5 places, and it takes over 80 stitches to repair his badly lacerated face.
Sheer luck that the wolf didn't grab part of the neck. With the tremendous bite force of the wolf, Zach would not have survived that. Very lucky.
They took Zachariah into a triage room, and it was that moment. It was the first time that I looked at him, because I thought, okay, now we're safe, and I can see. And his face was just ripped apart.
Even after the doctor had Zach and was doing what he could to put Zach's face back together again, the reaction was, well, it couldn't have been a wolf. And they treated me very much like I was hallucinating, or just a stupid geek from the city, or, you know, somebody who just didn't understand, obviously, because wolves don't do that.
The scars themselves really aren't that visible.
The psychological trauma leads to months of severe panic attacks.
The therapist said what happened is deep and primal, because you're supposed to be safe when you're asleep. He didn't know it was coming. None of us knew it was coming.
Park rangers decide the lone wolf poses a serious threat to other campers. 5 days after the attack, they find the animal they believe terrorized the Delventhals and shoot it dead. But Zach doesn't blame the wolf for what happened.
I'm not really any more or less afraid of wolves than I was before, and I have a great respect for them and a great admiration for them. But they're always potentially dangerous.
Throughout history, wolf attacks have been the stuff of nightmare and legend. No ordinary creatures. In mythology, they often represented evil, even the Antichrist. Not even death could safeguard people from the wolf's jaws. In 16th century Scotland, bodies were often buried on islands to stop wolves digging them up and eating them. No European settlement, it seemed, was safe. In 1879, in a village in southern Finland, a pair of wolves went on a bloody rampage. As many as 35 children were killed. Eventually, the Finnish army was called in, but the wolves proved elusive. It took 2 long years to halt their terrifying reign. The female wolf was shot dead. The alpha male poisoned. By hunting in packs, wolves are highly efficient killers. Sometimes not even a gun will stop them dead. A woodsman living in Springfield, Missouri in the early 1900s learned this the hard way. Ambushed by a furious wolf pack, he fought a heroic battle for his life, but overpowered before he could reload his rifle. He was later found ripped apart, surrounded by 5 dead wolves. Ever since the first white settlers arrived in North America, wolves have been relentlessly hunted and killed. But in their place, their canine cousin, the coyote, has flourished. Increasingly, the ever-adaptable coyote has moved into urban areas. And increasingly, humans come face to face with them. One afternoon in his yard, Jimmy Hawthorne ran into a wild coyote. A coyote with rabies.
I couldn't believe what was happening. I knew I'd be bitten. It was scary.
This coyote has lost all sense of reality. He's suffering from rabies. The disease in his brain has eradicated any fear of people. All he wants to do is attack.
Most likely the coyote encountered a rabid raccoon. They tangled and the raccoon bit the coyote.
The rabid animal has left his natural habitat behind. He's now in the residential neighborhood of Lenaxa, Virginia, and is a deadly threat to anyone who crosses his path. "47-year-old Jimmy Hawthorne is working in his yard on a lazy Sunday afternoon. His wife is inside, taking a nap.
It was a normal day. I was actually using the lawnmower to blow the leaves off the yard.
Jimmy is completely unaware that he's being watched.
I probably see coyotes once a month, and then when they see you, they're gone. They're scared of humans.
But not this coyote. Driven by the lethal virus, he's desperate to bite anything or anyone.
Rabies virus infection is transmitted in the saliva and often deposited in skin, subcutaneous tissues, or muscle, and then eventually spreads along nerves to the central nervous system.
The diseased coyote closes in on Jimmy.
I was just sort of in my own little world, riding on a piece of equipment, and it startled me. I mean, my first thought was it was a German Shepherd. And then I looked and I said, oh my goodness, it's a coyote.
Horrified, Jimmy realizes this coyote is rabid.
At that point, it was just terror, scary.
Rabies is almost always fatal if not treated immediately.
Well, there have only been 6 survivors of rabies. We don't fully understand why the outcome is always fatal, but clearly the immune response isn't sufficient to clear the viral infection.
It was driving the mole as fast as it would go. The coyote was having no trouble keeping up. The coyote kept circling the mole.
Fueled by a wave of aggression, the coyote seizes opportunity and strikes.
He bit my boot. I felt him bite the boot. I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening. I just remembered that moment of fear, of terror. It was scary.
Luckily, the coyote's bite doesn't pierce Jimmy's thick leather boot. Jimmy needs to make it home before it does. But then his mower runs out of gas and stops dead.
My thoughts were, oh my goodness, something scares you to death. And then it's like you have to take care of yourself, protect yourself.
Jimmy must either risk running for his life or taking on the rabid animal.
This animal might weigh 50 pounds, and I weigh 240. If it gets bad enough, you know, I'll just tear him apart with my hand. But I knew I'd be bitten. You don't see animals come up to you. I mean, I've been in the woods my whole life. Deer don't walk up to you. Rabbits don't walk up to you. This animal had no fear of man. He would come around the tractor. You know, I didn't want him to bite me on the back of my leg, and I just turned around and faced him, and he came at me, and I kicked him. That's when he sort of hollered, yipped, and went into the thicket.
Because of his swelling brain, the rabid coyote is suffering terrible headaches. Jimmy's kick further disorients him. Jimmy's bought some time. But only a little.
I looked around and found a big stick about 8 foot long. And I said, well, I can use this to keep him off of it. And he was aggressive, extremely aggressive. Coyotes, canine teeth, are so much longer than, say, a Doberman. They're prepared to hunt and kill.
Wielding the stick, Jimmy scores a direct hit to the coyote's head. The crazed animal retreats, for now. Jimmy races for the house, but the door is locked. His wife still asleep. And the rabid coyote isn't yet done with Jimmy.
I'm knocking on the door, and then I see him running across the front yard, coming back.
The ever more aggressive coyote closes in for the kill. While mowing his lawn one Sunday afternoon, Virginian Jimmy Hawthorne is fought off an attack by a rabid coyote. Locked out of his house, Jimmy's now trapped by the deadly animal. A rabies victim suffers agonizing spasms in the throat, making it almost impossible to swallow. They develop neurological impairment and paralysis, finally progressing to coma, then death. Jimmy pounds on the door one last time to wake up his wife.
And thank goodness she got the door open. And I went in and I told her there's a rabid coyote out there. And I was looking for a gun.
The coyote refuses to give up. The rabies has infused him with blind courage. All he knows is he needs to bite. Jimmy has to end the battle now.
In the initial stages, it's panic, fear, terror.
Honey, you stay inside.
You're scared. And then that went away. It goes from fear to aggression. It almost makes you angry.
Leaving the sanctuary of home, Jimmy goes in search of the deranged animal. But this time, he's prepared.
Just a reflex action, I shot him. And killed him.
When the animal is tested, experts confirm the rabies virus. Thankfully, Jimmy is healthy, but the psychological trauma remains.
When I'd go to bed, I'd close my eyes and I would see the coyote coming at me.
Now, when doing the gardening, Jimmy and his wife are always on guard, just in case.
When the news originally did the story, when it happened, they said, "How do you feel about that?" And I said, "Well, you know, I would have rather been a lottery winner." So it was amazing to me how everything is nice. You're at home. It's a Sunday. You're working on your property. Everything's calm, and then everything turns into chaos. It's scary, you know.
Rabies has terrified people for thousands of years. In the 16th century, a deadly epidemic swept across Europe. Stories of horrific attacks by mad animals foaming at the mouth entered popular folklore. Peasants in the countryside faced the greatest risk, but not even cities were safe. In 1450 in Paris, a pack of wolves, some probably rabid, created blind panic when they breached the city walls. 40 people were bitten and killed. The ferocious pack was lured into the heart of the city, close to Notre Dame Cathedral. There, a mob hell-bent on revenge stoned and speared the wolves to death. While the wolf and coyote have always posed a threat to humans in parts of North America, there's a much more dangerous animal at large. The powerful cougar, also known as a puma or mountain lion, is thought to have killed at least 18 people since records began. Aniela was almost one of them. While on a mountain bike ride with her friend, a cougar pounced and tried to snap her neck.
And you think, this is just a nightmare. I told myself I'd rather die.
The rugged canyons of Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park are a big draw for thrill-seeking mountain bikers. But here, taking a tumble is not the only hazard. The park is home to some spectacular and dangerous wildlife, including the feared cougar.
California Fish and Game gives a range of population from 4,000 to 6,000 cougars in California.
This 110-pound male cougar works alone.
They're very good at being top predators and surviving in the landscape. Their quickness, their agility, their smoothness of movement, they're just good at that.
The cougar has just taken a fresh kill.
They will immediately take them off into the brush, and that gives them cover and allows them to feed in peace. One cougar will have a territory of roughly 30 to 50 or more square miles.
The big cat buries what he doesn't eat for another time. He'll attack anything that threatens his food cache.
I'm always a slowpoke.
Even humans. Aniela, a personal trainer and ex-Marine, and her friend Deb Nichols meet up for a biking excursion. They choose Cactus Hill Trail because of its exciting twists and turns.
Ann and I got together because we have common riding styles. We tend to just like to ride hard and not talk a lot. I tend to take up sports where there's usually some rough play.
You have to be willing to get dirty, have to be willing to, get cuts and scrapes and maybe some poison oak along the way. But I love it for the adventure.
But today, Cactus Hill Trail will take them on a journey they won't soon forget. Ann and Debbie are heading straight into a death trap.
We were just kind of, coming into the downhill section. You're going to finish the ride soon. All the climbing is done. And our goal was to make it out before it got dark.
The cougar jealously guards its precious food.
Mountain lions don't move very far from their kills. Once they've cached the kill, they tend to stay relatively nearby.
Just up the trail, another cyclist discovers an abandoned bicycle.
Hello?
He has no idea who it belongs to.
As I was first turning down that trail, Cactus Trail, when I came around one of the blind corners, we actually saw a man standing with his bike and then the second bike with no person. And my instinct was that they had stopped and that his friend was going to the bathroom. So honestly, I didn't really take it very seriously.
The cougar's heightened sense of hearing picks up the noisy cyclists. They're invading his territory. Debbie falls behind. The distance between them has made both more vulnerable. Thinking his food cache is threatened, the mountain lion moves into attack mode.
As I was moving down the trail, what caught my attention was I saw a flash of movement. I saw kind of a reddish-brown fur. Initially thought that I had startled a deer. And then the impact.
A cougar can leap a great distance in the realm of 20 to 30 feet and will jump on their back and bite the back of the neck.
The only thing I can liken it to would be if you're riding your bike and you got hit by a car from behind. That's what it felt like to me. I mean, the impact was unbelievable. I was face down and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. And I knew, okay, this isn't a deer.
A lion's impetus is to kill as quickly and as efficiently as possible because that reduces its own energy expenditure and its own chance of harm.
I just couldn't believe that had just happened to me. And you think, this is just a nightmare. This can't really be happening. You can't wrap your brain around it.
Ann's helmet protects her for now. But the cougar is determined to win this battle.
If they don't kill with the first bite, they may move their bite gradually around to the front of the throat and take the prey down by asphyxiation.
It was like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was so completely overpowering. I could feel it actually hanging on to my shoulders. The lion's claws were dug into each of my shoulders, and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. He was able to manipulate and move me around, release his grip and grab on again and just drag me.
I could hear Ann's cry, screaming, and it sounded unusual. It sounded like a siren over and over, and then just within an instant I came around the corner and saw the mountain lion.
Debbie needs to think fast. In sheer desperation, she tries to scare the animal away.
He didn't even flinch.
They're very focused predators. They don't get distracted easily. They have to finish what they start.
Risking her own life, Debbie does the only thing she can think of.
When I grabbed her leg, I thought, it was going to be something that would, alarm him at least, but it didn't. It didn't seem to faze him.
All it would have taken is one swipe from that lion to take Debbie out. And she put herself in that situation where that was a very strong possibility.
And I, had a death grip on her calf area. I was just amazed at his strength.
I just remember watching her face and watching her hanging onto my leg and screaming at the top of her lungs.
Debbie's frantic attempts aren't working. She can't pry her friend loose.
I was very aware that he just basically ripped my face off.
An adult male cougar's powerful jaws are comprised of 30 razor-sharp teeth. Measuring as long as 2 inches, these massive canines are used to deliver a lethal bite. The other teeth are specialized in slicing and shearing flesh.
They're able to crush leg bones, femurs, large bones, and commonly eat the entire skull. They're very, very strong.
Anne is fighting a highly motivated killer and losing.
To be honest, that was the only time. It was for a split second, but I basically told myself I'd rather die.
I don't remember anything but his tail smacking in his eyes and thinking, I'm so close, I'm screaming so loud, why don't you let go of, her face?
A group of cyclists up the trail hear Debbie's screams. They arrive with Anne's life hanging by a thread.
I can't hold her much longer. I kept repeating that. I can't hold her much longer.
One of the cyclists calls for help as the others join in the fight. But it's almost too late. The animal's large canines sink into Anne's throat.
Once he locked down, things started to go black. I started kind of seeing stars. And I knew that was going to be the end.
Aniela is now on the edge of death, and her friend is powerless to help. Aniela has been savagely attacked by a cougar in a California national park. Her best friend and 2 passing cyclists struggle to save her before it's too late.
Dear God, please give me the strength to hold on to her. He's eventually going to let go.
But the cougar is determined to finish the job.
Their focus is intense, even to the point of ignoring a certain amount of negative stimuli, rocks and sticks and things like that. They're very focused, but they do recognize that they're getting hit, and at some point they potentially will give up.
One of the rocks finally hits its mark. The cougar relents and lets go. The attack may be over, but Anne's struggle to survive isn't. She needs medical attention urgently.
Stay down. Stay down. Give me a short. When I came to, I was lying on my back at that point, and I felt as though I was drowning. And we realized that it was blood. Hang on.
Debbie is also fearful the cougar may want to finish what he started.
Hold her neck still.
Immediately thought, I just want to get out of this area. I felt very uneasy that he probably hadn't left, but that, he was close by.
They don't get rewarded by giving up easily. All of their evolutionary history dictates that once they start, they have to stick with it.
The paramedics arrive at the scene, but they fear she may not make it to the hospital in time.
My neck hurt so bad. Just every muscle was just torn. That's what it felt like. You know, it's so painful to even try to lift my head an inch.
And I just said to her, Anne, you're gonna make it. You're gonna be fine.
It's gonna be okay.
The cougar stays in the area, still protecting his food cache, while Anne is airlifted to the hospital. Surgeons tell Anne that the cougar's bites were millimeters away from ending her life.
My plastic surgeon told me he found 40 bite wounds to my neck alone, and then I had obviously severe wounds to my face. It wasn't going to be a quick fix. This is not like one surgery, I'm back to normal. And then I realized I'm not ever going to be back to normal.
Later that evening, park rangers locate the owner of the abandoned bicycle. He had been making his way down Cactus Hill Trail when his chain came off. Unaware, he was being watched. The animal struck with deadly force. The cougar likely snapped his victim's spinal cord in one bite.
Gosh, I can't believe that I'm still here. It kind of helped me to be so thankful that I was still alive, to realize that here this adult man had been killed, and I made it.
A team of park rangers has no choice but to track the man-eater. He's shot dead not 50 yards from his first kill. Unwilling until death to give it up.
I think they're gorgeous animals. I have a lot of respect for what they're capable of, appreciating that they need their space too. An experience like this obviously makes you appreciate your friends. Debbie, specifically, she risked her own life. That's true friendship.
Their domestic cousins may be household pets, but in the wild, hunger or disease can occasionally drive these animals to target human prey. These people all came face to face with some of North America's most feared killer cats and dogs. They were lucky to survive.
We were aware that there's mountain lions, but I just would have never thought that they would turn on me.
The general advice is don't run, don't play dead, fight, because your life depends on it.
The shark was looking at me like face to face. It's the scariest sight I've ever seen.
He actually latched his mouth onto my right arm and just threw me around on the bottom of the Gulf like I was a rag doll.
And a picture that stays with me is of this great big head coming up towards me. The fear of dying was unbelievable.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 remarkable stories of people savagely attacked by the ocean's most powerful predator. What's it like when you become human prey? When Australian Eric Nearus went diving for shellfish in 2007, he was nearly bitten in two by a great white shark.
Everything went black. I started to get shaken horizontally. I was getting eaten alive.
The great white shark is top of the food chain. Hardly changed since the dinosaurs. It's the ultimate killing machine. This full-grown shark is now targeting Cape Howe on the south coast of Australia. The strong currents here attract fish, which attract seals, which are the shark's favorite food. It's the rich marine life at Cape Howe that also attracts fishermen to these waters. Eric near us is one of them. He specializes in abalone, a large sea mollusk and culinary delicacy.
I call myself an underwater labourer. Basically, we crawl around the bottom of the ocean measuring abalone and collecting them. It's a pretty strenuous job. If I don't catch a certain amount of abalone each month, I don't make any money, so I can't pay my bills. To tell you the truth, that day I was only half-heartedly getting ready to go to work. Being school holidays, I could have found something more interesting to do, like take the kids out to a park or the movies and have a family day out.
Today, Eric's 16-year-old son Mark is joining him. He's working as a deckhand.
Mark was only out with me to make a bit of pocket money for himself. He'd only deckied for me about 4 times, so he wasn't actually what you'd call experienced at all.
Mark isn't as comfortable as his father in these waters.
Every time we've been out before, like, we've seen sharks, and there'll be sharks, like, just fly in front of our boat. I don't know, it was just a morning, like, it was real freaky morning, like, real quiet and, like, no noise or nothing like that. Sort of think to yourself, something's gonna go bad, something's gonna go bad.
Mark's intuition is dead on. A hungry great white has returned to these familiar waters, where it hunts its favorite prey, seals. In the water, Eric breathes through a long hose that feeds him oxygen from onboard tanks. He also wears special clothing.
I wore a lead-lined weight vest. It has about 7mm thick lead plate sewed inside it, and it fully covers your back and most of your chest, and that keeps you on the bottoms.
Although shark attacks are extremely rare, Eric knows it's a hazard that goes with the job.
When you're a diver and you're in, their domain, you've always got that inkling in the back of your mind. I wonder if a shark will show up. The water was actually dirtier than I normally would like to dive in. That's when you start to even imagine that there's something out there, and the hair on the back of your neck will stand up, and a seal or a school of large fish go past you, and all of a sudden you'll start to think, okay, I wonder if there's something chasing them.
Surprise is the great white's best tactic. Stealthily, the hungry animal closes in on its next meal.
Seals are very cognizant of sharks being in an area, and it's not unusual to see them haul out under those circumstances.
Unlike the seals, Eric hasn't yet picked up on the shark.
I sort of wound my way around the boulders and the kelp and just sort of hugged the bottom, and after an hour I filled up my first bag, and I sent that bag up to Mark. I remember looking up at Mark at the hull of the boat. I could just see it, and I thought, beauty, Mark's doing his job. He's right above my air bubbles. He's a good kid. He's following me. He's not too far away.
Mark's not sure why, but he can't shake the feeling that something's not quite right.
It was just weird, like, and I kept going over the side of the boat and looking down, and it didn't feel right. It didn't at all.
I was getting into cruise mode. You know, you sort of get into daydream mode where you just work and forget about everything else. It's so peaceful too. You can only hear the hum of your air regulator.
Humans wearing a black wetsuit are doing a pretty darn good job of making themselves look like a seal or a sea lion.
One second it was daylight, the next second everything went black and a really nasty vice-like pressure crushing my chest and upper back. And I wasn't really sure what had actually happened to me.
The shark has taken one supersized bite. Eric's head and shoulders are in its mouth. One arm is down his throat.
Inside the jaws I couldn't see any light. It was just all dark there because I was facing the back of his throat. My right arm was actually hanging down the shark's throat. My arm refused to work anymore. It felt like it was broken.
The head in a seal is the working end of a critter, and sharks know that much. If they can bite off the head, the rest of it's an easy meal.
I'd never experienced anything like this in my whole life.
Eric's lead vest has stopped the shark's razor-sharp teeth from slicing him in two, but this only makes the animal more determined.
Then I started to get shaken horizontally with a really hard threshing motion.
When a shark head shakes, what it's doing is dragging its teeth, especially its upper teeth, through the prey from side to side like this, and sawing through the prey.
By thinking, oh, is this the end? Is this what it's like to die? I was actually getting eaten alive.
A great white shark has half-swallowed abalone fisherman Eric near us. All that's saving him from certain death is his lead diving vest.
My instinct kicked in, and I had a free left hand, and I started to feel around the jawline of the shark, and I reached up higher, and I felt a slimy membrane. I realised that must have been the eye.
Eric gouges his fingers deep into the shark's eye.
Anything we can do that demonstrates to the shark that we're big and strong and are willing to fight back is a good thing.
Surprised by the counterattack, the shark begins to loosen its hold.
And I started to wriggle out backwards a bit, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get out or not. And just as I thought I was going to be free, the bottom jaw closed, and I felt these teeth going into the back of my head, into my skull. I twisted as hard as I could again, trying to gouge the eye, and the shark reacted again.
The animal at that point reacted by letting go as a matter of defense for its own self. Sharks aren't dummies. Eric caused it pain. It realized that it had a formidable foe there in the water.
The shark was looking at me like face to face. It's the scariest sight I've ever seen.
As Eric's blood seeps into the water, the shark waits for its prey to weaken even further.
The white shark will bite and let go its prey to cause exsanguination, leaves it to bleed to death till it gets weaker, and then it comes in to finish it off.
You really think your time's up. You think, okay, it's got me. It can fly into me and finish me whenever it likes. When you're in a situation where you feel you're going to lose your life, you get a few thoughts that flash through your mind. And I thought about Mark. He'd never see me again. And I knew the mental effect that would have on a 16-year-old. Sort of tried to calm myself down. And I thought, well, if I panic, I'm only going to be dead anyway.
Eric is faced with a life or death decision. Swim to the surface or try and hide from the shark somewhere on the sea floor.
The water was going a dirty brown colour around me from blood loss. Blood attracts sharks, and that's when I made the decision that I was going to go to the surface. And as the shark slowly circled me, I spread my legs and arms out a bit so it could see that I wasn't the seal. I was something, different to what it normally would eat.
Eric heads for the surface. It's a gamble that could cost him his life. If the animal reacts to the sudden movement, Eric's finished. Searching for abalone on the sea floor, Australian Eric near us has been half swallowed by a great white shark. He's managed to fight free, and now he needs to get out of the water before it strikes again.
Those marble dolls with the black painted eyes, a glossy black colour, that's the colour of those sharks' eyes, just a dead black. And when you've got those eyes on you and they're only like 1 to 2 metres away, it makes you feel very small indeed. It really had a tough job holding back the fear.
Eric breaks the surface, but the 15-foot monster is still circling below.
The whole time the shark was just below me, going around and around my flippers, and it could have, taken me any time it wanted to.
The shark didn't want to just rush right back in because the last time it did that, it didn't have a pleasant outcome.
Dad! I'm coming!
All Eric wants is to get out of the water, fast.
I screamed at Mark that I needed help. He came straight over to me.
Eric makes it out alive, but his wounds are horrific.
I suffered a broken arm, a broken nose, 4 teeth went into the back of my skull, and my other teeth marks are in my chest. So thank God for that lead vest, or I wouldn't be here now.
Eric tried to return to abalone fishing, but fear kept him out of the water. Now he works on dry land as a security officer.
I can't even say how much it hurts still to this day, like, the knowing that I could have lost the best thing in my life, and I just don't know how to say it. Like, there's no words that can literally say it.
When you've had a narrow escape and you sort of feel you've been given a second chance, it makes a great deal of difference to your life, and all of a sudden you start to appreciate things that you didn't even think about before. We're pretty good mates, young Mark and myself.
Ever since people first ventured into the seas, we have been afraid of the monsters that lurk below. The great white shark has always been the most feared, infamous as a ruthless predator that will kill anything. But the smaller bull shark is actually fiercer, packed with more testosterone than any other creature on the planet. These naturally bad-tempered sharks can attack their prey in as little as 2 feet of water. When a bull shark bites, almost nothing will make it let go. In the summer of 1916, a horrifying series of shark attacks shocked holidaymakers in New Jersey. Originally blamed on the great white, these attacks were in part the inspiration for the novel Jaws. But many experts now think the villains were really bull sharks. The first victim that summer of 1916 was Charles Epting Vansant. He started shouting for help, but people assumed he was calling to a nearby dog. When a lifeguard finally reached him, His left thigh was stripped of flesh. Van Sant bled to death before reaching the hospital. The Coast Guard was sure this was a freak accident, so beaches remained open. A fatal decision. Just 5 days later, a second killing. The ocean turned red when a hungry shark went for Charles Bruder. It bit his right leg clean off. Bruder bled to death before he could be rescued. The next attacks were even more terrifying. The scene of the crimes, 16 miles inland in a freshwater creek. 12-year-old Lester Stillwell was playing in the water with friends. They noticed what they thought was an old log in the water. It started swimming towards them. Suddenly, the shark pulled Lester under, and he never surfaced. A man entered the water to bravely search for the boy's body, but he too was fatally wounded by the bloodthirsty shark. Experts now know that great whites can't survive in fresh water, but bull sharks can. Bull sharks may actually be responsible for many more attacks than previously thought. Chuck Anderson knows just how aggressive a bull shark can be. When training for a triathlon in 2000, he was savagely attacked by a bull shark, an attack that changed Chuck's life forever.
It was just freight train. And even though I hadn't seen it, I knew exactly what it was.
The Gulf of Mexico is famous for crystal blue waters and white sandy beaches. But this is America's shark attack capital. In fact, there are more shark attacks here than anywhere else in the world.
Almost anyone that's been in the water have been close to a shark at some time. The sharks see the humans. Humans don't always see the shark.
And public enemy number one is the ferocious bull shark. It will target almost anything that moves, even humans.
Bull sharks mean business. When they attack, they truly are going after a human.
And what they start, they mean to finish.
Bull sharks are persistent, and I think for that reason, I would be a lot more concerned about a bull shark than a white shark.
It's early morning, and this bull shark is already on the hunt. It patrols the shoreline because it knows sooner or later something tasty will swim by. Chuck Anderson, a former football coach and father of two, is training for a triathlon. Today, he intends to train in the ocean. He is joined by a friend, Richard Watley, and four-time Hawaiian Ironman champion, Karen Forfer.
I was very honored to be swimming with Karen that day. She was such a good swimmer. And the male ego of keeping up with a 64-year-old lady kind of kicked in automatically.
The swimmers know there are sharks in these waters, but they're prepared to risk it for the love of their sport.
I always was a little bit leery when I got out there. I was constantly looking around and that sort of thing, but still in the back of your mind, it was kind of always there. And I remember thinking, gosh, I was a little bit nervous out there that day.
Picking up on the erratic movement in the water, the bull shark moves in closer to investigate.
Humans are not a natural part of the sea. As a result, we as humans are engaging in provocative acts simply because we splash so much, we make so much noise, we do so many other things that are attractive to sharks.
Chuck's friend swims alone in a deeper water where there is less of an undertow. Karen and Chuck, however, feel safer sticking together closer to the shoreline. A decision they will soon regret. After 5 minutes, Chuck finally gets into a groove. His mind is now focused on outswimming Karen.
Then we got to a place that I knew were an old set of piling. Pier was built there, and it blown down during Hurricane Frederick back in the late 70s.
That's essentially an artificial reef. First, various invertebrates grow on the piling, then fish come to eat those invertebrates, then bigger fish come to eat those, and then sharks come to eat those. And so it's a natural area where, as a shark, one would go to find food.
Unwittingly, the swimmers have now entered this shark's natural killing ground.
Karen kind of went ahead of me. I'd like to say I was chivalrous and letting her go through the pilings, but actually she was kicking my rear end pretty good.
The shark observes his potential meal as the swimmers make their way past the pilings.
I remember looking at my watch, and it was 6:38 a.m. And I took 2 more strokes in the water. It nailed me. Felt like a linebacker getting run over by a fullback. He just freight trained me. He hit me and knocked me out of the water.
A classic bump and bite attack. The shark was getting a feel for the size and the power of whatever it was going to bite.
And even though I hadn't seen it, I knew exactly what it was. I felt like he knew that I was out there in his territory, and he wasn't very happy about it. My big fear was that there was more than one. There was a school of sharks, and that I was in real trouble. I started hollering for Karen, who had gotten a pretty good ways away from me at that stage of the game, to get to the beach. Get to the beach now. Hurry. Get to the beach.
Karen races to shore, but Chuck is too far out. He's on his own.
Well, it's a pretty helpless feeling. You know, there was no way I was going to outswim anything that was out there with me.
Chuck desperately searches for any sign of the shark.
And I was treading water, and I remember looking around on the surface.
What Chuck can't see is that the shark is gunning straight for him.
I've been a scuba diver before, and when you're down on the bottom, you can see around you. That part of it you can kind of come to grips with and handle because you see what's happening around you. When you're on the surface of the water, I didn't know what I was dealing with. I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know when it was going to get to me. I put my face in the water. When I did, up from the bottom was the shark coming directly at me.
Chuck begins to panic. He knows the shark could finish him off with one vicious bite. Chuck Anderson is training for a triathlon when he's ambushed by a hungry bull shark. The animal only bumped him the first time, but now it's going in for the kill.
I realized that if I didn't get a hold of myself, that if I panicked, that I was going to be in a lot more trouble than if I tried to have a plan and protect myself. And just instinctively, I threw my hands out to push off of him.
Chuck's move is disastrous.
Took all 4 fingers off my right hand, just clean as a whistle. White knuckles were showing through. I mean, they were literally exposed.
Bull shark is probably one of the most powerful biters. Its head is extremely big and robust. It has huge muscles, jaw muscles. It's a very strong predator in terms of its jaw morphology.
Undoubtedly, the shark just missed. I'm sure the shark would have much rather had the entire lower arm if it could have grabbed it.
The taste of flesh sends the animal's killer instincts into overdrive. This time, he's determined to get a bigger bite.
I thought, he's not going to just swim off. There's blood here. He's taking a bite of me. He's going to keep coming back. I realized I'm not going to survive.
Fighting a 300-pound shark in open water is a losing battle.
A big fear that I had was that he would attack me from the back. You know, I couldn't protect myself if he came from the back and I couldn't see him. That's when he hit me. And I remember kind of losing a little bit of my breath. He hit me that hard.
Bull sharks will hit the victim over and over again.
and they'll actually single them out amongst a bunch of people. If there's multiple people in the water, sometimes they'll go through the people and hit the same victim over and over again.
Chuck doesn't have time to react because the shark's fin is once again slicing through the water towards him.
Everything goes in slow motion. You're kind of in a fog, thinking it won't ever end. It's just a strange, eerie type of feeling. My kids kept coming to mind, and I just couldn't imagine ending my life without being able to tell them I love them. I remember thinking if I was going to survive, I had to get mad.
The shark opens its massive jaws and drags its prey into the deep.
As I pushed off of him, he actually latched his mouth onto my right arm and took me immediately down to the bottom, 12, 15 feet of water. He started doing the gnashing, the feeding frenzy, just threw me around on the bottom of the Gulf like I was a rag doll.
The shark's only mission is to eat. He tries to chew off Chuck's arm.
If there's one species that one could say that actually goes into a feeding frenzy, I would say it's a bull shark. Once they get into the attack mode, you can't change their mind.
I'm a pretty big guy. It was ridiculous how easy he was throwing me around. I never thought I'd get back up to the surface.
The testosterone-crazed bull shark hasn't finished with Chuck, and now the athlete is on the verge of drowning. A bull shark has viciously attacked triathlete Chuck Anderson. The animal has been thrashing its human prey for over a minute.
It was at that stage of the game that me and the good Lord had a conversation, and I asked him to get me up to the surface so I could get a breath of fresh air. And all of a sudden I felt my heels dragging on sand.
Now the shark's dragging him at high speed towards the beach. In its determination to eat Chuck, incredibly, the shark drags him onto a sandbar. The swimmer seizes his only chance of survival.
He couldn't move. I had my arm in his mouth. I was trying to hold my face away from his mouth so that he wouldn't snap at my face. And it was a real unique feeling as I was hitting him, and I kicked him a couple of times, and I was doing everything I could to get away from him, but it wasn't fazing the shark at all. I mean, I know people say poke him in the eye, but when you're dead in front of a shark and the eyes are on the side, you know, I couldn't see his eyes, and being on the surface, that type of thing, I didn't have time to collect my thoughts to, okay, let's poke him in the eye. Or most of it's instinctive, and my instinct was to hit him and kick him and that sort of thing, trying to get away. I couldn't get my arm out of his mouth by pulling, so I worked it up and down twice and jerked real hard. And when I did, it completely degloving my arm. My hand popped off in his mouth. There really wasn't a sense of, oh my gosh, I've lost an arm. It was more of a sense of, oh my gosh, I survived. You know, I'm very fortunate. I should be dead.
The shark has lost the battle. It waits for the next wave and propels itself out to sea.
Couldn't get a helicopter in to pick me up and take me to a trauma unit. And so I remember one paramedic turned to the other and said, man, if we don't get him to the hospital in the next few minutes, he's going to die. And I thought, whoa, time out, hang on. That's not an option here now. I thought I was fine. And the guy said, Coach, you're blue, you're losing blood, we can't stop the bleeding. If we don't hurry up and get you to a hospital, you're in real trouble. And I thought that was the first time that I really had time to think about the fact that I might die. And that was a real scary moment.
Chuck is rushed to the hospital, where what remains of his arm is amputated at the elbow.
I was halfway to the hospital before I ever really came to grips with the fact that, hey, you don't have a right arm anymore. And I promise you, it's not going to come back.
Despite the tragedy, Chuck Anderson is determined not to let it ruin his life. Just 10 months after the attack, The father of two competes in an able-bodied triathlon and wins.
My kids were on either side of me, and we crossed the finish line together. And, geez. And I was proud as his dad that I could show my kids, if you work hard enough, you know, you can do whatever you want to do.
The bull shark may be the most aggressive shark in coastal waters, but in the deep, the oceanic white tip is the greater menace. About 3/4 the size of a great white, this shark rarely encounters people. But when a ship goes down or a plane crash lands on water, the deadly white tip will target human prey. In fact, the white tip is responsible for the largest ever attack on people. Just after midnight on July 30th, 1945, the Japanese torpedoed the USS Indianapolis. The battleship had delivered the first atomic bomb and was on a new mission in the West Pacific when it was hit. Of the nearly 1,200 sailors aboard, 900 are thought to have made it into the water alive. Sharks were most likely drawn to the wreckage by the sound of screaming, splashing men. The white tips went into a feeding frenzy. The men's horrific ordeal lasted 5 long days. By the time rescue boats arrived, more than 500 sailors were missing. Many had been devoured by the hungry sharks. Although the bull shark and the oceanic white tip may be more aggressive, it's the great white that has entered popular folklore as the ultimate ocean-going serial killer. Its size and power mean it will always be seen as the most terrifying of all sea creatures. In 1830, Joseph Blaney was attacked by a great white while he was fishing off the coast of Boston. The shark capsized Blaney's boat and pulled it right under, with the fishermen still in it. The boat resurfaced, but Blaney was never seen again. 130 years later, during a spearfishing competition, Australian Rodney Fox was attacked by a great white. It's one of the worst shark attacks anyone has ever survived.
I hurled through the water faster than I could swim. It was right at the edge of my life. I was in really big trouble.
This great white shark is swimming the waters of South Australia, looking for food. He's around 20 feet long and 4,000 pounds. He is constantly on the hunt. And as Rodney Fox knows, it will eat almost anything that moves.
December the 8th, 1963, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, is a time I will never, never forget. Changed things in my whole life forever.
Today, it's Rodney's chance to retain his crown as South Australian spearfishing champion. He's been training hard and determined to win, despite the choppy water.
The weather wasn't very nice. It was a little bit windy, but it was something I had worked for. I had done so many deep diving and exercises, and I practiced holding my breath, and I'd made 2 beautiful spear guns.
Rodney is aware of the risks. 18 months earlier in this bay, his friend was attacked by a shark, which bit deep into his leg.
The word shark was sort of out there in the background with hell and death and devil and things like that. I was well aware that I could actually be attacked, but of course I didn't believe that it would be me.
The winner today will be the person who catches the largest number of different species in a 5-hour period.
The gun went off and everybody raced towards the shore. And I knew that I had to work hard, and you didn't get the fish on the surface. You had to be down there with them. You had to approach them in such a way where they didn't think you were an aggressive attacker, and then you would slowly bring the gun around and sneak up on them.
Rodney isn't reckless. He takes precautions against a shark attack.
What you do is to attach the fish onto a float that you tow with you on about 10 meters of ski rope. If any sharks came along looking for the bleeding fish, they could take them without getting near you.
This great white shark may be miles from Aldinga Beach, but its powerful sense of smell soon picks up on the blood in the water. It stealthily makes its way towards Rodney's tempting catch.
Because of their injuries, any speared fish is going to be releasing bodily fluids, blood and other things into the water. Shark, for instance, can smell a single drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. That's pretty darn good.
Blood from the fish that had been speared was slowly going out to sea. In the tide, it was putting an odour trail several kilometres down the coast.
The blood, the struggling fish in the water, any electrical charge it picks up or anything like that, the shark would be attracted to that and probably swim upstream to find it.
I was so focused on doing well and looking for fish that I couldn't really think about anything else that might happen. I got a fairly large boarfish, which was really a prize fish and gave high points. And I thought, it could be a lucky day today.
After almost 4 hours in the water, Rodney comes in to weigh his fish and assess his chance of winning.
I found out that there was one fish that I really needed that would build up my points. And I cast my eyes over the area and thought, where would I find this particular species? And I thought, well out past the reef in very deep water.
Rodney heads back into the ocean, past the reef. But venturing off on his own puts him on a deadly collision course with a natural-born killer.
There's safety in numbers. That's why birds are found in flocks and fish are found in schools. Spear fishermen should be found in groups. Once you isolate yourself from the rest of the group, you become more vulnerable.
Alone and out on the edge of the reef, Rodney has no idea he's swimming directly towards the shark. A shark that has Rodney in its sights.
Humans aren't denizens of the sea. We don't see very well in the water. We don't smell things. We don't feel the vibrations of animals moving. And so we're not attuned to watching over our shoulder for predators.
Rodney tracks down his elusive prey. All he needs to do now is spear the prized fish, and the competition is his.
I was just squeezing the trigger when
the shark's massive jaws clamp around Rodney's chest. It begins thrashing him violently.
White sharks often engage in the marine version of shock and awe. Nothing is better as a predator than to have a sudden strike of overpowering strength to put your prey item in trouble.
The gun was knocked off my hand, the mask was knocked off my face, and I was actually hurled through the water faster than I could swim. I don't know why, but I thought, oh, I've been hit by a train. And even though I knew I was going fast, I had this memory of the shark's tail slowly going through the water.
As the shark drags Rodney deeper and deeper, it uses its razor-sharp teeth to try and sever his body in half.
The great white shark has broadly triangular teeth that work just like a steak knife, but in tandem, it's like having a big saw.
The fear of dying overcomes the fear of normal pain. The adrenaline that is raced into your body gives you special powers to be able to think and do. And as I was being forced through the water, it said, gouge his eyes, gouge his eyes.
Rodney reaches around the 2-ton beast and digs his fingers into one of its eyes. Miraculously, the animal lets go. But it has no intention of giving up on a spear fisherman.
Gouge at the eyes or the gills of a shark, and that is probably not what the shark would expect. So the texture, the taste, the response, everything is not what they expected. The animal abandons the attack at that point, not quite sure what it is. Doesn't mean they won't come back.
The fear was unbelievable. It was right at the edge of my life. I was in really big trouble. I knew I may not make it, but it never occurred to me to give up. Just keep fighting.
Rodney looks down into the deep.
And a picture that stays with me now is of this bright red water, which is my blood, and this great big head coming up from down below with those big triangular teeth towards me. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? I have nothing to protect myself. I'm gone, I'm gone. The shark turned, instead of going for me, swallowed the whole fish float with the fish.
It looks like Rodney's cheated death. But then, a violent jolt. He's still attached to the float, and the shark dives and pulls him under.
Put my hand on my stomach trying to find the catch, but it must have swung all the way around. I couldn't find it.
Rodney is quickly running out of oxygen. He can't hold his breath any longer.
Those were the last few seconds that I was going to have of my whole life.
In Australia, spearfishing champion Rodney Fox has been savaged by a great white shark. He's survived the first onslaught, but the shark has swallowed Rodney's fish float, and the float is still attached to Rodney.
As I was being dragged down, down, down into the water, I was running out of air, and I thought, I'm gone, I'm gone. I can't hold on any longer. I'm going to have to breathe water and drown.
With no hope, Rodney gives up the fight. The shark has won. Then, the line snaps.
Instantly, I thought I have more chance. I've got life. I can make it to the surface.
Rodney has to get out of the water before the shark returns for more.
Unbelievably, a boat was coming over to find out what all the bright red water was.
Rodney has only just escaped with his life, but his injuries are horrific.
The lung was punctured, the spleen was uncovered, the main artery from the heart to the stomach was just left there, one nick, and I've died.
Rodney has cheated death. But before long, the champion spear fisherman returns to the water.
Sharks came at all angles from me. The little glistenings of the water turned into sharks. And I remember saying to myself, if you don't control this, Rodney, you're going to be no good. And I had to shake my head and get rid of the sharks and turn it back into little glistening things again. I wasn't meant to go, but you can't get much closer to death than that.
There are over 375 species of sharks swimming the world's oceans. But despite their fearsome reputation, only 4 target humans. Shark attacks are very rare. Fatalities, more so. But when a killer shark has us in its sights, it's the shark that rules the ocean.
We're so used to controlling our world. We blast big holes in mountains to make roads. We put dams across the mightiest rivers. But one-on-one in the water, sharks still come out ahead.
Sharks are nature's most determined predators. But sometimes, miraculously, their human prey survives.
If you're subjected to a shark attack, you should fight like hell. There's no playing dead with a shark. You play dead with a shark, you will be dead.